Mr. Minnick here, teaching my App Inventor students how to use fusion tables, an exciting data structure that's implemented in App Inventor through the courtesy of Google, who created fusion tables. Here we are in the student 6.8 section of our curriculum, and this is an optional assignment, as you'll see, and you should have already read over the information in 6.7 for sure, because it has to do with this. Let's just take a quick look at 6.7 to understand what a fusion table is, so that you can watch me then incorporate it into App Inventor. So please explore this 6.7 exercise. I think you can do this on your own. You won't really need me, but you can ask questions the next day of me or each other. Fusion tables allows anybody in the world to go with their Google Drive account, create a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet, and then that data that they have in their spreadsheet, text and numbers, can be presented as a snazzy chart or overlaid with these nice little red dots, an overlaid Google map with the data that's built into the spreadsheet. And you really just have to go through this to appreciate the depth of examples of what's possible with fusion tables and Google spreadsheets. Oh, by the way, you can also import a comma-separated value CSV file from Microsoft Excel or some external website that you downloaded. So any data that's already been put into a spreadsheet format, we'll just say, can quickly be integrated into a Google Fusion table, and you have this like really cool bar chart, line graph way of presenting the data to your boss for a promotion at your job. Now, that had nothing to do with App Inventor. That's just fusion tables as a way to show really cool, colorful visualizations of data that otherwise would be dry numbers. But now in 6.8, we are going to incorporate the power and pretty layouts of fusion tables with App Inventor. Unfortunately, at this time, summer 2016, there is no video version of this tutorial available yet. There is a text version, and I followed that. I'm going to hit the highlights right now and actually execute this app so you can see the highlights before you go and possibly do this by hand. That's going to take you about 40 minutes probably. Here it goes. The text version of this tutorial is right here now. And here we are at the tippy top. It reviews what a fusion table is in general. And then they give you a starting point for this app, and they call it Hello World Fusion Table Template. So please do go and download that AIA file. Open it up in your App Inventor account. And they've given you very little of the work. So the 12 pages of tutorial that you have left to do is the bulk of the work. So you're really not getting much for free here with this starter file that you'll see here on page 3. Okay, I'm just going to flip over now to my App Inventor account and do the walkthrough of the exciting parts of this. But I do not see any typos at all when I just tediously went through this. But please do read all the details, because some of this is very, very necessary to cross your T's and dot your I's. Otherwise, you'll have like an extra comma or an extra single apostrophe that'll like ruin your runtime experience. Okay, flipping over to my version of this. You're told to rename it Hello World version 1. Please do that, just to be careful. And here we go. I'm going back over to the design interface here. And the components that I added that are worth emphasizing here are a clock, a location sensor, and a notifier. I think they already had the Fusion Tables control in there. And if not, you're going to be adding that from the component drawer over here on the left. They also are using a web viewer. And they told us to rename things. Some of the things they renamed, some of the things we did not. I added these buttons and a text box right here. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the front end of it. I just did what they did. Now do notice here that they already had the web viewer synced up with the website https://google.com blah blah. Now check this out. I'm a nosy person. When somebody gives me a web page address that's like embedded into my properties inspector over here, I'm going to Control C that, because you can't right click and go to copy. You have to Control C certain things in web page environments. And I'm just going to open up a brand new tab in my browser here. See, brand new tab. And I'm going to paste in there that web page address. Now, if somebody told you to jump off a cliff and hey, here's the cliff, would you do it? Yeah, because I'm not really on a cliff right now, but I am going to this website at google.com/fusion tables blah blah blah. I'm hitting the enter key and I'm going for it. I like to test the websites to make sure that they're still valid. When this demo was written, perhaps 3 years ago, this might be a web page that existed then, but it doesn't exist now. So I'm verifying that the web page exists still. Otherwise, you're not going to be running your app, at least not with this Google Map. So here is this cool website. This is a Fusion table. This is the kind of thing you can do with Fusion tables. And at this website, I'm going to zoom in because I just want to zoom in. You just got to go be nosy here and look to see what's going on. And I see a lot of activity in Hartford. Well, that's where the professor, Professor Morelli, started all this App Inventor madness. But I'm going to zoom in on the Philadelphia area where I'm based, and I'm just going to see if anybody I don't know, lives where I live in these red dots. Well, what do you know? Right here, close to Route 413, there's a red dot. So I'm going to hover my mouse over this web page, and it pops up a message. I think I had to click there. I'm not sure. Oh, Mobile CSP PA 2016 rocks the Casbah. And their location, latitude and longitude, and the date of this post. So when you do read this example, people that followed this app, they were able to basically put a little dot on the map. And this goes back, I think, 3 or 4 years. So social media giving us the ability to populate a Google map with location data and text box entries, because I made up this rock the Casbah thing about 10 minutes ago. And this could be like find my puppy dog that got lost, cited here. This could be a Pokemon Go, if by the time you watch this video that's even still legal or not. All kinds of cool things could be done relatively easily if you finish out this tutorial. Okay, so that was a browser window that I'm going to close, and that is what my web viewer is currently connected to. Now let's go look at the blocks on this Fusion table demo program that Mobile CSP has given us. Demonstrating good style here, which I am not, probably. I always like to put my global variable declaration initializations up in the top left corner, just because that's a good place for people to find them. That's the only variable that I'm using in this one screen app. All the action, of course, is going on here. You'll see it's the big fat procedure, but let's trace this in the order that the events would probably take place so we can understand how this app's user experience works. Okay, so I'm going to look over the events to see which one happens first. Is there a screen initialize? No, there isn't. And if there were, I should have put it up here probably in the upper left where people would have readily saw it quickly on this walkthrough. So what happens first? Does the Fusion table give you a result? No. I'm just telling you no to that right now. Does the button refresh get clicked? No, that would not be normally the first thing that you would do. Location sensor. No, I'll just tell you no. And hey, here's a reusable procedure. This is a procedure that I created from an abstract idea of something I needed to do. And we named it Quotify, and we'll go over it later. But that's just a little reusable procedure that the programmer defined me for this app only. Okay, here goes. All the action happens when somebody comes along and clicks Add Me. Now let's just assume that they type in here like, hello from, well, I can't type right now, but pretend hello from Indonesia is typed there. And if the person really is in Indonesia, and they click Add Me, a red dot will appear in Indonesia with the phrase hello Indonesia or from Indonesia. So that's what will happen when we test this the next time. Okay, back over to the blocks. So all the action pretty much happens when Add Me is clicked. Well, I put all this like junk into a variable just to stay focused. And we're using concatenation to concatenate a bunch of strings together. And that one string, values packet, gets sent to the Fusion table asynchronously, as you'll learn about when you read the demo. And it gets added to a new row of this spreadsheet that you can like picture in your mind. This spreadsheet in the cloud, this Fusion table somewhere at Google Docs will have a new row. We often call rows of spreadsheets rows because in databases they're also called rows. And that row, in the first column, the fields, the up and down columns, it'll have an ID number. And that's just a token that we need to have for authentication permissions. So whoever made this Fusion table, Professor Morelli at Trinity College years ago, when he set this up, that's the token that everybody who creates this app needs to use if they want their red dots to all go into this massive Fusion table that we're all like social media sharing. Now here's where we can have some fun with, well no, we can't have fun with this. In the Fusion table that he created, he has a second column called date, and a third column called note, and a fourth column called location. I think I just messed up my explanation. This isn't a column. This is just an identifier that identifies the table. So we have three columns, date, note, and location. And look at the data that I'm sending. The note, the middle one, is hello from Indonesia. That's whatever I have typed in over there on the interface in the text box. So that's the fun stuff where you can say rock the Casbah or something interesting. But what is date? Well, date's obviously the day's date that you made this post into this app. Well, we're using a clock component in this situation to get the current date. There's a .now method that can be called, and we formatted it in this expression format here that gives it a 4-digit year and a month and a date with a comma. So that's a nice little pattern that you can use to take today's date and put it into a format that other people would like to see. So we're using a clock to get the current timestamp, not as a timer like you'll see in lots of game-based App Inventor apps where something happens every 1 second or every 5 seconds. The clock component's very useful in varied ways. Okay, so that's the first chunk that I'm putting in front of a comma with this join concatenation. I'm also getting my text box greeting. And what's the third thing? The third thing that's going into this Fusion table is the location. Well, we're taking advantage of a location sensor component that's quite capable of finding my latitude and longitude. And we're separating those two by a comma, which is the third part of this column separated big chunk of concatenated data. So I guess I should hone in here on Professor Morelli's example of what piece of data is added each time somebody clicks the Add Me. Somewhere in here, he is showing us that this is the expression, a sample expression, of what was just concatenated together by our code. Now notice it's Ralph as his first name, and he's not like O'Neill or any other Irish name that has an O with an apostrophe. Because if he had the name like O'Neill, that apostrophe would possibly mess up and confuse App Inventor, because the text pieces are delimited by single apostrophes or single quotes, whatever you want to call them. So that's a potential that would wreck this app unless it's dealt with, which it is later on, and I'm not going to go over it right now. You can read that for yourself. Okay, so there's the data that gets sent to the Fusion table, and then the Fusion table just knows how to put a red dot in at this latitude and longitude and to pop all this up over the map. All that abstraction is done for us by the developers at Google. So all we have to do is pass a big long concatenated string in the right format to it. Okay, back to the details of the blocks. Professor Morelli has us just put this notifier in so that we can kind of see what's happening as confirmation. I probably don't need that notifier in my final version of this app, and I might have taken it out. So here's the finish up of this app. The data that we carefully put together in a variable called values packet up above, it's being sent to the Fusion table and inserted by this call statement right here, this purple block. And hopefully we don't get an error back. If you had the location in front of the note and those two reversed, would there be an error? Probably not, because they're both pieces of text and they would quite happily go into the wrong columns for your entry. But you look like a fool to everybody else in the world that holds their mouse over your red dot, because they would, well, your red dot wouldn't go where it needs to. I just thought this out better, because the location wouldn't be a latitude and a longitude. It would be like hello from Indonesia, and that wouldn't be parsed right, and something bad would happen. And if not, your pinpoint would be in the wrong continent of the world. So lots could go wrong if you don't format your string in the right format here. The only other things worth stressing in this walkthrough here in the blocks are the fact that this is all review from earlier parts of our curriculum. How to use a location sensor, how to make a button that would refresh the web viewer. That's pretty easy. The GPS sensor on your phone or device doesn't always sync with a nearby satellite within like 1 microsecond. So we did disable the button Add Me until we are sure that the location sensor on your phone has synced with the nearest satellite. That was just robust error handling that makes your user experience better to have that in there. Otherwise, it's going to have some rough edges. And then this reusable procedure that we called Quotify, that Professor Morelli called it. I'll note that we did a replacement, like a regular expression behind the scenes is replacing all single apostrophes with empty strings. So it's basically pulling out any single quotes that are innocently put into the text box by accident that the user didn't know would cause harm behind the scenes. So it's a pretty robust app. It could always be made better, I'm sure, with some extra error handling. But there it is. I will now attempt to do a quick walkthrough. I'm going to, well, just trust me. I'm not going to execute this right now. I'll leave it for you as an exercise to do the tutorial and execute this app for yourself. But just trust me, it does work. I just executed this app not too long ago, and I did put one of those pinpoints in on that Fusion app. Oh, you're asking me if I can open up that Fusion app, that Fusion table I meant to say, and go look at the spreadsheet view? No, I don't think I can, because only Professor Morelli has rights to that document, and I'm just accessing it through that token. So I can't prove to you that our data is in that Fusion spreadsheet table spreadsheet other than to show you our red pinpoint dot that's now on that shared Fusion table. Okay, if you have any questions, follow the tutorial 2 or 3 times and then ask me in class if you have any questions tomorrow. Good luck.